Hello, everybody. This is Neil. I've really been looking forward to seeing you all again this week. And thank you for all those who are watching and enjoying the stories. I always welcome your feedback, so do write to me. Today's story has really excited me. It's one of the stories that I've always enjoyed telling when I've been working with children. So I hope you enjoy it too. It really is about this. I hope you can see. This is a fairy, and we keep this fairy. One of our girls had it in her bedroom while she was growing up, and I know she loved this fairy. So the story features a fairy. I'll put the fairy on my computer. There, you can't see it, but it's sitting next to me. Well, once upon a time, there was a little boy, and he was a grumbler. Do you know what a grumbler is? Yes, it's somebody that's always moaning. If he was given a cake, it was never the size he wanted, or it didn't taste right. If he went playing with people, he always wanted to win the race. And if he didn't win, he'd really be sulky and fed up. He didn't have many friends because friends found him so difficult, and that made him even more grumpy. His parents found it very difficult. They tried everything they could to make him happy. They'd take him out, take him on walks, invite friends round, but none of this ever worked. He always was grumpy and moaning and so unhappy, really. He never had a smile on his face, so his parents were really worried. One evening, he was extra special grumpy at tea time. And his dad said, look, I think you better go up to your room a little bit early tonight. You know, I think we've all had enough of your grumpiness. So he just got up from the table, banged around, and stormed up to his bedroom and slammed his bedroom door. His mum and dad felt really sad because they really loved him. But nevertheless, the boy got into bed, and before long, he had gone to sleep. And in his sleep, he started to dream. Do you dream sometimes? I know I do. Well, he started to dream. And in his dream, he was thinking he was on the hillside. And it was a beautiful sunny day. The sun was shining and it was warm on his skin, but still he was grumpy. He started kicking out with his legs against tree trunks, and he was just really grouchy. Then suddenly, what happened was he felt something touching his foot, and he looked down at his foot, and there was a fairy. He'd never seen a fairy before. He said, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And she said, "I'm your special fairy," she said. "I've been watching you, and you don't seem to be a very happy boy." "No, I'm not happy at all. In fact, I'm really grumpy. Nothing is good in my life." "Well, you don't seem to be a very good success story as a little boy. Are you, Walter?" Because that was his name, Walter. He said, "No, I suppose not." The fairy said, "Well, would you like to be something else? Perhaps you'd like to be a bird or another animal or a flower." He said, "I don't know. What's the use? It'll just be the same. Anyway, I'd like to be a bird like that one I can see up in the sky now. I'll be a bird then." So the fairy got her wand and she tapped Walter on his leg. Instantly, Walter suddenly became a bird with wings. And he thought, "Oh, wow." And he started to flap his wings and he took off into the sky and soared high above. He really enjoyed it. For the first time for ages, he was really excited about being a bird. But then something happened. He looked up, and in the sky above him, Walter saw this shadow, and he realized that it was the shape of a hawk that was shadowing him. Walter knew immediately what was likely to happen because small birds are in danger from hawks. So Walter dived down as fast as he could, but the other bird was tracking him, and Walter just in the nick of time, went in a hole in a tree, in the trunk of a tree, and the big hawk was not able to get him. Walter's heart was beating like anything. He was terrified. He said, well, I'm not sure I want to be a bird anymore. It's so frightening. He just poked his head out of the hole. And who was there beneath him? Yes, you've guessed, but the fairy. She said, Walter, it didn't seem to work out being a bird, did it? No, it didn't. I was enjoying it at first, but then that hawk came along and terrified me. He may have eaten me. Well, said the fairy, is there another creature you'd like to be instead? Perhaps try something else. Walter thought, is it worth trying? All right, he said, I'll be a rabbit. Okay, she said, and again she tapped her wand on Walter. Instantly, Walter became a rabbit, a lovely furry rabbit, a really cuddly rabbit. And he started to hop. He hopped across the ground. He thought, well, I quite enjoy this. And he started to nibble at some really luscious grass on the floor. And he was feeling quite happy. But then he heard, ruff, ruff, ruff. And he looked round and he saw a dog bounding across the field. So Walter started going like mad to get away from this ferocious dog with teeth that was going to hurt him. Just in the nick of time, Walter bounded into a burrow and hid. But it wasn't quite quick enough because the dog was able to just get a bit of Walter's fur in his teeth. Oh, poor Walter. He was terrified. He thought the big hawk was worrying enough, but this really frightened him. And he hid in his burrow all night and trembling because he was frightened the dog hadn't gone away. The next morning, he thought, well, perhaps the dog's gone. I'll just look outside of the burrow. So he crept and he looked. And you've guessed it, I expect. Who did he see? Yes, our fairy friend was there. And she said to him, Walter, that didn't turn out very well, did it either? Look, I can give you another wish. There's one more try. Is there something that you think you could be happy in? Walter stopped. He thought, oh, what's the point? Ah, he said, how about if I become a flower? I'd love to be a flower, perhaps a rose, a beautiful red rose. The fairy said, all right. And she tapped him again with her wand. Walter found himself in a lovely flower bed, the most beautiful rose you could ever imagine, with beautiful leaves, lovely petals. He looked magnificent. And he looked around and he thought, I quite like being a rose. It's quite a gentle place, and I know I look really wonderful. But then he felt a tickling sensation in his stalk, and he looked down and he noticed a caterpillar crawling up his stem. And then after a while, he felt a nibbling because the caterpillar was beginning to eat Walter. Oh no, not again. Aren't I ever going to be happy? And Walter started crying. All his beautiful petals became full of water. At the bottom of the beautiful flower was standing the fairy. She looked up at Walter and she said, oh dear, I am sad. That didn't work out, did it? Is there something else you would like to be? Walter didn't hesitate. He said, yes, I'm realizing that being Walter the boy is the best of all. Can I please go back to being Walter? Just as the fairy was about to put her wand on his stalk, Walter heard a voice. Walter, Walter, are you awake? It's time to get up. Oh, Mummy, I'm a boy. I'm a boy. She said, I know you're a boy. Mummy, Thank you for all that you do for me. I'm so sorry I've been a moaner. I'm never going to moan again. Thank you for all you and Dad do for me. I had a dream last night and it's really taught me a lesson. The mum was overjoyed. She went down to tell Walter's father. She said, there's been a change. You see Walter when he comes down. And sure enough, Walter came down. And from that day on, Walter was no longer the grumbler. He started to have friends. People liked him. He started to do very well at school. In every sense, Walter was a changed person because he realized something. He realized that we should be really grateful for who we are, whatever we're like, wherever we are, to make the most of ourselves, to always look outside of ourselves and bring our true way of being into the world so that we can bring happiness to other people and not always be discontent and wanting something else. So Walter learned a big lesson that day. I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I enjoyed telling it. Tell your friends that story too. I think it's a good one, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.